Hi, I'm Mac McCarthy, and I help people with their breakups. And today is going to be an extremely informative show. What I've learned as a breakup coach. A couple days ago, I was just journaling out some thoughts and some different things, and I was going over this in my own head, and I thought this is something I want to share in a live stream because it's been 3.5, nearly 4 years of doing this, and I've learned some things and seen some commonalities which other people would make generalizations on, but I would say they're commonalities or similarities of things that keep coming up that aren't something where I'm like, oh, this is a study or this is a beta male versus masculine male. This is just stuff talking to people that are in breakups of various ages and various cultures. So obviously, I can't make that a study and divulge all these people, but take my word for it. I've talked to a lot of different people in different situations, and if you think about it, there's a lot of people out there that go, "Oh, just do this in a breakup,"
Mm-hmm.
right? But they haven't really heard anyone's story or talked to anyone. They're like, "Well, if you're in a breakup, you go no contact, start dating." Like there's some general advice.
Generalization.
Yeah, there's general advice that a lot of people would give that they actually use themselves and worked. But I'm saying that from what I've learned, which I'm going to share today, and I just did point by point, just off the cuff. Maybe some things might surprise some people. Some people might think, well, I already knew that. Um, and a lot of times, good information or good advice is simple. It's actually, you know, it's like when you do coaching and stuff like that. Some of the some of the simplest advice is what resonates the most, and you absolutely you absolutely need to hear it at the right time when you're receptive to it, but also sometimes people just need to be reassured, with someone like myself that's not their friend or family member. Because sometimes you're on the right track or you're doing the right thing, but everything's telling you no because of desire, lust.
Sure.
And if you get the okay from me, like, hey, look, you didn't do anything wrong here, right? I'm going to tell you the truth. Where sometimes you did do something wrong and you're battling and you're blaming or you're upset, and that's a different case. So I'm going to get right into it today. What I have learned from being a breakup coach. Talked about this before. I think breakups are more common than ever before. I think that that's going to be a theme for the 21st century. Is it unfortunate? Well, you can frame it however you want. So you could blame people. You can say, oh, women, especially in Western culture, this whole thing that women are more masculine and um, they're harder to deal with, variety of things. And you might have some truth there depending on your environment, where you live. I'm not going to combat that. But you have to figure out um, it's inevitable that in the 21st century, which we're in the 21st century, sounds weird to say the 21st century, huh? There's going to be more breakups. People just aren't going to stay together for 40, 50 years.
Well, yeah, definitely.
Do you agree? I mean, and people don't talk about it. They still talk about marriage. What's marriage? Okay, let me be married for 50 years.
Right.
Why would you get married? You wouldn't get married unless you thought you'd be together forever or hope so, or for your kid or for a reason. I get it. I'm not anti-marriage, but I think honestly, you really have to understand it's different the last 20 years.
Yeah, well, it's not like the 50s or 60s, like that kind of. It's definitely, the dynamic has changed in society. At least
I think
like,
even the world, right? I think that just the fact that we're all, for the most part, maybe outside of maybe somewhere like North Korea or you know what I mean, that has limitations on the internet. We all have
access.
Yeah.
More so than
we have access. We have access to a lot of information.
Yeah, absolutely.
And my point is that this is going to lead to a lot more breakups because people are going to say, I don't have to put up with this, or this person's not doing this. People give in less.
Right.
They so
that fact and the fact that there's just way more people in the world now than
that's a good point. I would say there's way more. Let me take it a step further. there's way more people that are easily connected, like never
sure,
before.
sure.
But also, and this is gonna bleed into one of my other points. You and your partner can meet up and be on the same playing field as far as maybe morals and values, line up pretty good. You're both attracted to each other, and within 3 or 4 years, you could binge watch Corey Wayne one night, right? Which I have a lot of respect for Corey Wayne. Cool, whatever.
Corey Wayne or whoever.
You could binge watch Rich Cooper clips, right? Red Pill. You could do all these things, and then your girlfriend's watching Eat, Pray, Love for the third time. Now, that's not friends or family. That's content.
Like you said before, we talked about this.
And this is going to affect relationships. By the way, I make content. I'm just saying, I don't know if there's a way out of this. So you're going to have to learn to live with it and be more comfortable with the fact that I don't want you to be going into a relationship going, oh, we're going to break up inevitably. But I think you should be more open and accepting to that being a possibility. And then when you're prepared when the day comes, it's a lot cleaner than being pitiful, begging, pleading, doing things that you regret later on, which a lot of people do in their first breakup. But being prepared for the idea, hey, this is because I've had some clients, especially a few women that stand out in my mind that are in their mid 30s and really want kids and marriage.
That time.
Right. And they go, I just want a normal relationship, and I'm like, I don't know what normal is anymore.
Right. What is normal?
I don't know what that would be, and I think that you've seen some TV and some movies, and you thought, and you even ask these people sometimes, well, what's your parents like? Are they perfect?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, what I always say is if you look at couples that stayed together a long time, someone gave in.
Sure.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Someone
along the way. Yeah.
Someone allowed someone to get their way more often than not. Someone sacrificed more for the relationship. It's very uncommon for someone to go, oh my goodness, we were so equal the whole time.
The whole
Right.
time.
Right. So my other one was what I've learned since being a breakup coach. Social media is a huge problem post-breakup, creates huge anxiety and rejection. A lot of people might go, oh, well, yeah, I knew that, but at the level that I see it at. So you might think, yeah, man, just stay off social media, kind of like you tell your friend or a family member. And, it's just like a passing thought. When I talk to people, I mean, I think that they're sharing how much it hurts them more than they would tell their friend or family member. They might say, you tell your friend or family, like, man, I saw her on Instagram, dude. That other guy was a douchebag or da-da-da-da, right? But then when I talk to people, you can kind of see, like, this is really hurting you. This is really making you obsessed. And they feel like there's nothing I can do about it. When in reality, you can cut social media.
Sure. Well, previously, when would you ever really see your ex? Maybe if you went out, maybe somewhere in town or something and saw her with another guy, that was pretty much it. But now you have the access to Facebook and Instagram and all this stuff. You can just go check and never really cut those ties like in previous.
And people fight it when they talk to me. They're like, "Well, I don't want to block her." And they create all these reasons. I'd watch the documentary Social Dilemma 2 or 3 times, just to get why it's not good for you. But also, I would add, this is hurting you. You got to find a way to either cut social media for a month or really. The thing about when people block people, they still want to look.
Sure.
So I think when you block people on most platforms, you can find a way to
get around it.
Well, you can. How about this one? I blocked my ex-girlfriend. I'm going through it, but you're still friends with her, B, which I don't mind. I'm not going to say, hey man, stop being friends with her. I might tell you, that's another thing. Tell your friends, don't report anything to me. Yeah. But then I can go on B's Facebook page and they have a couple comments, and then I might even be mad at you.
Right. Like, you still talking to her?
So you just have to eliminate it, and people think, yeah, I know you're right, and they don't do it. They don't do it, and I'll tell you what.
It's so hard to.
Well, no, your social media is at a point now where you're dealing with an addiction.
Right.
So it's almost like, if someone's an alcoholic and you're telling them post breakup to stop drinking, that's probably going to be one of the hardest times to stop.
Yeah.
So, other things I've learned: people binge watch YouTube for info post breakup, many perspectives, and they become confused because they have so many options.
It's just too much out there.
People will be like, "Did you see this, coach? Did you see this perspective?" I'm like, "God damn." It's kind of like I've talked about this before. I watch Netflix now. I have trouble. They're saying your mic's off.
Hello?
Yeah. I don't know. I can hear you, I think. Yep. Let me know if you can hear him now. What's
good?
Is that better, Eduardo? Thanks for the heads up.
Yeah, thank you.
Minor stat. I can still understand you either way. So getting back to this, what I have learned since being a breakup coach, Derek D, Baltimore's finest. Wendy Dawn's on deck. Thank you. People binge watch YouTube for info, post breakup, many perspectives, and become confused. This is what I wrote down, but let me add to it. They usually pick the one that promises the most.
Okay.
Surprise, surprise. People will come to me later on. They'll go, "Oh my God, I went to Breakup Brad for his $100 post breakup guaranteed program. God, I fucked up. Because it'll be like, oh, do this, this, and this, and you'll get them back. I promise, right? And they'll be like, God, Mac, I wish I would have talked to you earlier. I don't promise that, and I don't ever claim that that's going to happen when we talk. But when you binge watch YouTube, right? Which I'm on YouTube, I'm not against it. It's becoming more and more information. It's hard to sift through, like, what's true, what's not true.
Right.
And so what your mind goes is like, what do I really want?
Mm-hmm. Oh, the one that's guaranteed, you get all the stuff that I want. Yeah. Well, you go with that. Sounds good.
Yeah, let me. Oh, I can get her back in a day. I'll take that for $200.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Max saying he could just be helpful and useful in the moment. Oh no, screw that. That's not what I want, man. Tell me how we're going to get her back tomorrow. So, what I would say is just be weary of promising too much, too good to be true type stuff. And if you find someone's perspective to vibe, like you just like the person, you just think, oh, this person's honest, then I would say don't overdo checking other perspectives. Now, I do have clients sometimes that pay me, do live coaching, and go to 5 other people. No problem. I never go, oh, you shouldn't go to this person.
Like literally 5 other people?
Yeah. And they'll tell me about it, right? And so there'll be different perspectives. And they'll be like, oh, this person just told me this, or they just told me that. And what you're doing is when you do 5 different people like that sounds pretty bad. You do 5 different people. You talk to 5 different coaches. Correction. You can get confused, but also, if you do that, filter for what you're looking for, right? Are you looking for
a specific type of answer that you want? And I found it from this guy.
Yeah. What I tend to do is really unpack everything and talk about. Let's question things. Let's see why you're thinking that. Let's see what you want to do moving forward. What would be ideal? Instead of just going, you need to do this, this, and this.
Right. Well, what's good with you, you make them, or you ask people to write a story and hear it from their own words, and I think that goes a long way.
Yeah, it does. It makes a difference. So the other thing I see, people are more lonely, live alone, addicted to info, not action. They get comfortable with not dating real people. Now, let me elaborate. So, I've noticed, almost stuttering there. I've noticed, especially in the last year, more people are living alone.
Sure. Well, yeah.
And they tend to be more lonely. And they don't say like, "Oh, I'm so lonely right now," but you can.
And it's a stressful time too.
With different things.
Sure.
And once you go post breakup and you're alone for a while, you can get comfortable with your creature comforts, your home, and you don't want to leave home.
Right. fall in that trap of comfort.
And then you go on YouTube and these other things, and you gather all this info, and you don't do anything.
Right. You're just constantly just soaking in information.
Right. So that happens a lot. I'm one of the people that gives information, so I know this. And what happens is people get so comfortable in their little box that they don't want to go out and go on dates. They don't want to, dating apps suck. This sucks. That sucks. The translation is you're just too comfortable. You're really comfortable where you're at, and you don't want to do some things that might, disrupt that.
And I think we all pretty much fall into this at some point in our lives for sure. And you just gotta recognize it and try to move on and do something instead of just saying you're alone.
See, that's another thing. When B says we all, he's saying it's happened to me
It's
before.
happened to me,
But I want to put you all in the same pool.
I'm sure we all have, been in the comfort zone. And
No, but I've noticed that. Like I noticed that this is one of the things human beings do. When they mean themselves, they'll say, "We all do this.
Yeah.
All men do that," and it's like translation. You.
I 100% have.
Yeah.
I think I'm not 100% sure. But
A lot of people. Yeah. Well, it goes back to more people being single and breakups, and then, if you let it go for a while, you start to come up and build a case why it's good for you to be alone. I'm an independent person.
Yeah.
People don't get along with me. I hate dating apps. The list goes on, and it's okay. But I'll tell you what, human beings are social creatures. Look it up. And you need some social interaction. And if you go too long without it, it'll definitely take longer for you to get back in the game. Just like, if you think about it, if you stop going to the gym for a long time or exercise overall, it's hard coming back in.
Yeah.
So that's hence the reason I always tell people, go on bad dates.
Just get used to getting out there.
Be rejected. It's fine. If you want to take a break, absolutely take a break. I absolutely support, hey, I'm not ready right now. And I went through that in a breakup, and friends were like, hey, man, when's the last time you hooked up? Yeah. Like, let me ask you, have you hooked up with someone this month? They'll like pull you to the side, and they're like, nah. And they're like, what? So-and-so was asking me about you, and you're like, in my head, I'm like, I just need a break. Yeah, right. I'm living large and in charge, Rick. Knock them out the box. All right, so what have I learned in 3 years? People and modern shrink, you probably will agree with this one because you got to deal with a lot of people. People think everyone thinks like they do or should think like they do. Very simple statement. I should put this as a quote. It's a lot better quote than some of the... I love the Stoics. I love Marcus Aurelius, but it's getting played out on IG. It's like Marcus Aurelius. It's like, stay still, stay quiet, think little. Oh, great quote.
Right.
and they'll just throw that up over and over and over and over again. It was Marcus Aurelius. I'm like, yeah, he's an all-timer, man. I think other people have spoken the same language before. But people think everyone thinks like they do or should think like they do. So you get into these things and people they state their case, they go into why the breakup happened, they go into why someone's wrong. And then it's like, well, did you ever think that she doesn't think the same way you do? Well, no. It's like I never forgot on a live stream, and this is kind of funny. I've mentioned this before, but there's been, I don't know, hundreds of live streams. So, but there was one guy. He was talking about that this woman had left him, I think, for an ex-con.
For an ex-con?
Yeah, for an ex-con. Yeah. So he was just like, she left for an ex-con. Like, how could you how could you go to a guy like this? He's a criminal. He's this. He's that. And he's going on and on. And a girl chimes in on the live stream, and she goes, because he's got the D.
Yeah.
And it's like, You didn't think of that one, did you, dude? Right? Because guys don't want to go there in their head, right? They're like, and the dude went. He was kind of like, well, maybe didn't even want to go there. Is that a possibility? Absolutely.
Yeah.
And when she dropped it in the live stream, I was like, oh no. Because everyone's like, oh yeah, she left you for a criminal. Oh, you're building a case. You're building a case. You're seeing it the way you see it. Oh, this guy's a loser. Oh, he has nothing. And then she's like, yeah, well, he might have been really good in bed.
Right. Bringing something else to the table. Right.
You know what I mean? It's like, people think everyone thinks like they do or should think like they do. It's a revelation I've seen by doing this work and talking to people, and I've certainly been guilty of it. I think we all think it. There was, in a self-improvement book I read years ago, there was a reference to this where the way they set it up was there was a business meeting, I don't know, like 20, 25 people, and there's a PowerPoint presentation. And the guy leans over to his friend, and they're in the back, and he goes, God, is anyone going to tell this guy? And he's like, what? And he's like, the screen's completely blurry. No one can read what he wrote. I mean, is anyone going to let him know that this PowerPoint is unlegible, like it's unreadable? And the guy looks at him and goes, I think you need glasses. That's how we look at life. It's like, think about that for a minute. Oh, this person's such an idiot. They're so wrong. It's like, did you understand what they said or where they're coming from? You just have a filter up, right? You have a filter. I remember I read that. I'm like, oh shit, that's so clear, right? Mm-hmm. And the guy, the way they said it was, the guy was embarrassed afterwards because he was like, he just assumed that this guy had a shitty PowerPoint, didn't do his homework, right? And the other guy's like, I think you need glasses, man. All of us can see it. Yeah. Modern Shrink says, not just being comfortable being single, many people create fear in dating game. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. I say reframe should and need to want, because everything is an option based on choices one makes. I think that the great Fritz Perls follows that, Modern Shrink. If you reframe to want, then every choice you make will make the want happen or not. So what she's saying there, language counts, and instead of saying I should, which means I'm not going to, I need, which is actually a negative for a lot of people. I mean, it's lack. Saying I want is a totally different. It's saying like this is what I want to do, but also the other one would be can't means I won't, right?
Reinforcing it over and over.
Yeah. Language counts. Yeah, language counts. Mm-hmm. All right. Next point. What I've learned as being a breakup coach. People want. You're gonna like this one, Modern Shrink. People want a normal relationship. I've had people go, I just want a normal relationship. Mm-hmm. What's normal to you?
What's normal?
First question. What's normal to you? Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, like kids, and we just communicate, and we have a house that's ours. We don't live with in-laws. We don't like, and I'm like,
like you're watching it in a movie.
But here's the thing. Stay with me on this. We got 11 on deck, 4 likes. I appreciate it. Even if everything goes right, correct me if I'm wrong, it still can go wrong. You get the house with the white picket fence, you get the 2 kids, you get the golden retriever. Maybe it's a golden doodle now.
I think that's probably a little bit more accurate.
Right? People are like, Mac, that's not where I'm from. Right? You get everything that's the normal part of your environment, your place. It still can go wrong. She could still meet some guy at work. He could still meet, his college sweetheart through Facebook. He could wake up one day and just say, I'm bored to hell. It can still happen. And that's the part where people go, wow, they start looking for things to blame and stuff. And I think that it's just relationships are going to be more fragile than ever because people aren't dug in with their morals and values like they used to be. So, individuals someone can suddenly be like into gardening in a week because they watched a gardening channel on YouTube. And
do you think a lot of this stems from the access do social media, all this kind of stuff?
I think. Well, here's a great experiment everyone can do. Go to your local cafe or your breakfast place or lunch place or whatever where there's some people, and tell me how many people are on their phone. Now, like I know, but I mean, even from 2 years ago, it's like 90%.
You can just sit and have a coffee.
I'm on my computer by myself, right? I'm not always watching YouTube. There was a guy sitting next to me today, and I'm not. And here's the thing: this isn't me going on a rant.
Yeah.
It's just reality. Okay, it's the crack of the 21st century,
Just where we are.
right?
Yeah.
So, this guy sits next to me. He's got a tablet, he's got a laptop, and he's got his phone. He's using all three. I'm not joking. So, and he's probably like in his late 50s or 60s, and he's got one that's a graph, maybe looked like crypto. Yeah, I was looking, right?
Yeah.
I looked over. I was like, God.
What's
He
going
had a some kind of movie or
on? Oh, wow.
some kind of TV going on the laptop with earpods,
Mhm.
and he was checking his phone.
Right.
Amazing, right? So if you think about that, the amount of if you're not even cognizant of being on the internet that often. By the way, everyone's watching this live stream right now, right?
Right.
If you're not even, it's gonna affect your relationship. It's gonna affect your relate. I just
The amount of shifting that someone can do, you know.
Well, I mean, how did relationships stay longer before? Okay, we have the same religion. Okay, maybe we have the same culture. It's not needed. I think it just lines things up better, right? So that's going to be part of it. So people want a normal relationship. I don't know what that is anymore, and I think that it's evolving quicker than ever before. People all of a sudden want something different a year later, 2 years later. It's like, hey,
Or into something new or whatever. Yeah.
right. Mm-hmm. So next one, what I've learned. Men are becoming more feminine, and I'm going to say this is Western culture. I don't live in Western culture. Currently living in Thailand, so I wouldn't say this is true of where I live necessarily. Men are becoming more feminine, women more masculine, but they don't know it. Especially women, they don't know it. So you have all these channels and all this content on it. So you can go down the rabbit hole and you can go, oh shit, I'm a beta. Oh, I'm this. Oh, I need to be more masculine or I need to be more feminine. They don't really know they're doing it. What's affecting that? Content, movies, right? I don't think that it just happened for both women and men, and I think women are less aware of it because sometimes I'm talking to women and they're strong, independent, this, that, and the other, and they don't realize it's pretty masculine the way they're coming off in their relationship. It affects relationships. Now that being said, I'm completely I'm this whole idea that men need to be this way or women need to be whoever you want to be if you're at peace or whatever.
It's like a right or wrong.
No.
Way to go. You're saying.
I'm saying it's a reality that creates friction in relationships. But by the way, there are some women that can be gung-ho, wear the pants, whatever you want to call it. And there's some men that like that.
Sure.
And they're not total weenies or anything like that. They're just
That's just the dynamic of
they learned that from their parents, or they're okay with it. And so that's fine. Someone from the outside is like, oh my God, John gets walked on. Holy shit. And it's his decision. It's fine. If he's happy and they have kids and he wants to, be told what to do and when to do, it's fine. It's whatever. But the reality is you got to decide what you like. And I would say that stop buying into some content that's telling you that all women are like this or all men are like this, and really own it on what you want. So where would you find a feminine woman if that's what you're into? Where would you find, a more masculine man if that's what you're into as a woman? Okay? Instead of complaining about it and saying that all men are, I think I heard a lady call into another show and she was living in Toronto and she was like, all these guys wear skinny jeans and have man buns and they're so feminine. And she sounded pretty masculine in her approach, actually, the way she was talking. So it was just like, okay, but, so the guy said, where are you looking? So you own in on what's wrong, and you'll find more of it. But it's an absolute reality. I would say that probably, compared to the 1950s, yeah, it's going to be different.
Yeah.
It's going to be different, but it's true. And like I said, women are less aware of it, that they're not acting as feminine. Yeah, and I'm going to say, okay, just don't think that you're going to attract a masculine man that way. Does that make sense? Like, if you're a masculine woman or on that side, you're probably going to have to go with a guy that's a little bit on the more feminine side, or that's willing to deal with that. And so don't get upset otherwise. I think as people are finding their own identity of self in a relationship, it can either break or make you. Good point, Modern Shrink. Everybody bases their relationships based on what they know. This is a really big one, folks. You might want to write this down for the 7 on deck. Everybody bases their relationships based on what they know from their own relationships and those observed.
Right.
Ignorance surfaces when something new pops up.
That
So,
you're not
yeah.
aware, or, you don't
This is when you call the breakup coach. No. So you're going, what the hell? She did this? It's like, well, you never witnessed that, dude. You wouldn't, if it's like a video game, I don't really play video games, and you're on a new level, and you're like, I haven't seen this dragon before. What do we do for this?
What's going on?
The sword doesn't work, right? So you need help when that arises. Maybe you could go to Modern Shrink or myself or someone else, but you need help because you're just basing things on your parents, maybe your auntie, your uncle, maybe your grandparents, whatever you witnessed when you were a kid. Usually it's your parents, but some people are raised by other people.
But in reality, it's pretty limited.
Your parents are usually number one because that's when you were in theta waves from 0 to 7 years old. You just were a sponge and you soaked in everything, right? So the mannerisms, all that stuff. But the other part I would say that will affect your relationship is your past relationship. But I would add one more thing would be your friends' relationships. I had this happen to me before where a good friend of mine was with his girlfriend for a long time when we were in our late teens, early 20s. And the way that went down, I remember thinking, oh shit, that's a possibility in my relationship. You see how that works? It's like, in other words, if they're really good friends and you see how something goes down,
you're right there.
You're going to be, even though it didn't happen to you, you're like, I'm going to be aware of that. That
so
comes
close to you.
Right. So that's definitely, everyone bases their relationship based on what they know their own relationships. And that's why you go to an unbiased.
And somebody like yourself, or like you said, Modern Shrink, that's seen a bunch of these.
You got to go to an outside person for this because it's going to.
Widens, you're talking to someone who's seen a whole bunch of these.
This is a big one. Jen, how are you, hon? Modern Shrink, you might want to chime in on this. Mentally ill partners lead to breakups, and in most cases, they make you the bad guy. The idea you can fix them or help them with no background in the field is ridiculous. It's good intentions, but it's ridiculous. If someone states it up front, tread lightly. So a lot of people will say, oh, I've had people say, she told me that she had an eating disorder. She told me she's bipolar. She told me she's this. I should say he also, excuse me, because it's not just women and men. And these relationships most of the time end where the other person made them the bad guy because they didn't understand what they're dealing with. They didn't understand what they're dealing with, and they get really upset with them and frustrated. They have less patience, and the other person's going like, I want to help you.
Right.
Like, I'm there for you. And then they'll go online, Jen, and they'll try to find the answers, right?
But you can't just, it's not one of those things. You just go online and solve everything.
Well, I think the worst part is if someone identifies with it really strongly, and they've been identifying with it for years, it's going to be hard to tear that off them. Yeah, it's going to be like a pit bull. lockjaw.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of those things. So I'm not. Let me be clear, because I've had people before like, oh, it's not. I'm not insensitive to someone with a mental illness or being bipolar or anything like that. I'm just saying if you are going into a relationship with none of those things in your background, I've had one client where my mom was like that, so I knew a little bit about that. Even then, a lot of times I find eventually they're going to make you out to being part of the problem, where you don't understand, you don't know how to listen, you don't know what I went through. The list goes on. And maybe it's true, but it really throws you around in the relationship because you start thinking, oh, I'm so bad, and people want you to feel like they do. They do. If someone, think about it. If someone's, in an angry state or just lost their job or really in the dumps, are they trying to bring you up?
They're hurting. They want to make you hurt too.
They don't necessarily do it on purpose.
Right, but
it's subconscious. Modern shrinks, borderline personality, narcissism, bipolar, schizophrenia, and major depression are the most common disorders and struggles with relationships. Mm-hmm. Sounds like it to me. And I would just say, if someone discloses that to you while you're dating, just tread lightly. Just tread lightly, that's all. And you could say, oh, that's not sensitive, that's not this. I'm just saying, if they identify with it and you're starting a relationship, it's most likely gonna become a problem, and you're gonna say something to trigger, and I call it it's like a booby trap.
Yeah, just wait.
Yeah, because they're like, oh, you just triggered my, such and such, and you're like, what? I didn't know.
Yeah, I can't step there. It's gonna trigger something, that's rough.
And on the most extreme cases, they accuse you of being one of the things. Mm-hmm. So they've done a lot of research on some of these disorders that Martin Shrink just mentioned. Okay, and I don't claim to know all the backgrounds on this stuff because that's not my wheelhouse or anything like that. I don't play that role. If someone wants my opinion, I'll give it to them. But if you're going to go into that relationship, look out, because people want you to feel like they do. And if you don't, maybe they're bipolar and they find that you're narcissistic, because it falls into one of those things like, well, you're also messed up too. And then people start going, am I really I have people like, do you think I'm really a narcissist, Mac? I'm like, no. Right? Sometimes you just do selfish shit, man, as a human being, right? Right? Like, so I had someone with Asperger's, and I was so stupid to think, oh, it's nothing out of the ordinary because she didn't seem any much different than a normal person to me. Here's the thing, though. Okay, what I said earlier. Ignorance surfaces when something new pops up. So don't think you're stupid. There's a big difference between being ignorant and stupid. If you call me ignorant and you use the word correctly, that's not offensive. That means that I don't know what I don't know. Right? So if you say, what happens is you go into these relationships and they're like, wow, it's great, the intimacy's great, she's attractive, he's attractive, he checks all these boxes, and you're overlooking something you just don't know about. Right? If I got in a relationship with someone with borderline personality, I don't know a whole lot about it. I haven't had friends or family members with that. I'd be walking on a minefield. And then if you're the type of person that has a heart or has feelings for them, you feel indebted and you're entangled. And then that's really tough. Yeah. Narcissists claim the other partner is narcissist, not usually bipolar. Okay, thanks for correcting me on that, Modern Shrink. You understand my point, though. The funny thing about narcissists, I often think to accuse someone of that, you must have some of it in you. Yeah. Right? It's kind of self-righteous. Right. Yeah. So, all right, other things. Things I've learned since being a breakup coach. Online dating is good for those that adapt to it. Mm-hmm. So it's one of those things, whether you like it or not, it's here to stay. It's 21st century. Yeah, listen, if you live in a major city or there's a lot of people, you might not need it. Or you live at a job where work at a job where you interact with a lot of people, might not be a problem for you. If you're
somebody that works at home or something that
right,
doesn't get out as much
right.
as maybe you used to.
If you don't, better get on a dating app.
Or maybe you don't like to. Maybe you don't like to go to the club, or I'm not saying it's great place to meet somebody, but maybe you just don't get out, like some of the small people, and that's just an avenue for you to go.
And I would add, I've had clients before. There's one recently. I'm like, what are you using? And the dating app was some like off the wall.
Like you've never heard of it.
I've never heard it. And again, I'm not an expert on those either, so I wouldn't know what was the best or wasn't the best, right? But my point was like, and then when he told me what it was, I'm like, it was like a friends pen pals kind of a thing. I said, get the hell off that one and use a different one. This has been producing really bad online relationships for him. So use a different one. But just realize that you're gonna to use online dating correctly, you're probably gonna have to adapt to it, which means at first it sucks. Maybe you're not a natural at online dating because you don't know how to crop pictures and you don't like the way you look or something like that. Then do something about it. It's like I remember I got a teaching job at a charity in an area I really liked. It was a school that was literally on the beach, right? So beautiful location. Not exactly what I wanted, teaching little kids basic English and stuff like that. And off the bat, the kids were really bad. It was hard to deal with. I remember thinking, damn, how did I fall into this, First month was really difficult. By month 2, I was like, all right, there's some silver lining. By month 3, I was fine. I adapted to it. I found the ways to make it work. I got better connected with the kids. I found the class leaders. Online dating, if you're not good at it at first, you're going to have to work at it. That's all. People who try it and get negative results blame online dating, but it's just a bad date and a bad match. So you can have a really bad. I think that it's more likely that you meet a bad match, or you meet someone you're like, wait a minute.
It could be totally different than what you're already seeing online.
Yeah, you had teeth in your picture.
Yeah. If you meet someone out, you kind of have a general. You've seen them already, then you want to date or whatever. But if you just see pictures,
it's like, is that really you? Come on.
20 years ago.
I'm sorry, I walked right by you. Oh wow. Shoot, were you wearing a wig before? It's just a bad date and a bad match. So don't treat it that it's online dating. Just go, wow, that was funny. Treat it as a good story to tell your friends. Next thing I've learned, online relationships where people never meet but talk on FaceTime are growing at an all-time high. This is really interesting to me. This is really... When I say they meet on FaceTime and never talk, I'm talking about 6 months, a year, 2 years, where they're like, we're supposed to meet. This is an all-time high, and it really reminds me of the movie Her.
Yeah.
Joaquin Phoenix? Yeah, great movie.
Really, really good movie. And
it's coming.
Kind of the same.
It's coming. Yeah. It's coming because it's exactly what people, Her, you couldn't see a person, but they'll probably have some kind of made-up thing.
But it's basically the same, you've never seen, there's no physical intimacy or,
Well, the people that meet on FaceTime do cyber extracurricular stuff. Sometimes they tell me and I'm like, all right, I got you.
Right. But you're never actually with somebody and, you've already made the contracts of, you can't see anybody else and we're exclusive.
No, they do exclusive.
Yeah, I know.
They do exclusive. It's
just online.
It's very common, and you think it would just be like once in a while, but it's very, very common. And people are frustrated with it, but they continue. And they actually, the weird thing, if they do it 2 times, they're more likely to do it a 3rd or 4th time. So they're comfortable with it. Yeah, and they'll be like, oh yeah, I've done this before. This is really good. No, it's not. It's okay to be in long distance if you at least knew each other first, and you're still against the odds. The problem with never meeting, it's someone gets highly insecure.
Oh, you're out
and I don't blame them because you don't really know the person, right? So the other thing, um, newsflash: the pandemic created a lot of breakups, mainly because people just didn't get space or outlets. Healthy relationships get space. Everyone is capable of becoming annoyed with each other over time, and it's
that's a huge one. I also think too that the dynamic of like encountering something this significant in your life changes people too. Like, oh my God, I never thought something like this was gonna happen.
You mean the
like
pandemic?
that pandemic, everything that came along with it, lockdowns, all that kind of stuff. It kind of messes.
Depends on where you're at in the
sure,
world.
exactly.
Yeah.
But I mean, for a lot of people, I think that probably was just like an eye-opening, experience that they never thought was gonna happen, and that can probably change, your perspective on things and life in general.
Great book, Mating in Captivity by Esther Pearl. I might say her name wrong, but one of the things that I got from that book: get your space,
Right.
miss each other,
Right.
and this wasn't created; it was the opposite. And
Like,
anyone gets annoyed with people.
sure.
Do you ever have college roommates and you wanted to kick someone's ass and they're like your best friend? Remember, I had anytime I had roommates when I had a few different sets, and they were like brothers.
Yeah.
They were like brothers. But at one point, and I even had a female roommate for a brief time. There's always a moment where you're like, yeah, like where you just get annoyed with them.
That's
So
natural,
yeah,
I'm pretty sure most people don't do
it's
that.
human. It's human. People didn't realize that their partner was. This is a big one. If I actually, this is a big point that I'm going to make in a book one day. People don't realize that their partner was opportunity based rather than just what they were looking for. I think B just made a face
Right.
like a dog that's confused.
We hit another camera, so we get that.
People don't realize their partner was opportunity based rather than just what they were looking for.
So they went out and searched for this relationship.
So, for example, if you're going to be opportunity based in a job, you might go, "I just need a job right now." Mac, do you know anything? And I tell you, and you're like, "I'll take it."
Whatever.
Yeah. If you're like, "Hey, man, I'm looking to DJ large part," like you're really specific and you're looking for it. You're like, "This is what I do. This is what I specialize in." You might take a side job, but you're like, "This is what I'm looking for. This is what I'm looking for." Right? Same thing when I was in real estate. Some people would just buy a house because it was a good deal. Some people know what they're looking for, and they're like, "I want a 1920s Tudor with, at least 10,000 square foot in the backyard. We want a pool. We want this." There's other people that are like, "Yeah, this is fine. It's close to work." Now, in a relationship, this actually happens a lot.
Like if you don't want to be alone or something.
It's like someone was a client of mine that was married for 20-something years. He came out of his breakup. The first woman he met within 3 months, and they had great, lustful, passionate intimacy. Guess what? He was in, no pun intended, in like Flint. And when they broke up, he started to see the problems with her, but he never really, it was opportunity based. He met her, it was the first one.
Good.
She liked to get freaky. That wasn't something that had gone on for years in his prior relationship, so it was opportunistic. And I'm saying that a lot of times we do this where we're like, she's hot, he's good looking, I work with him, I think he likes me, but you overlook like, yeah, I don't like the fact that he smokes cigarettes. And then 5 years later, you're like, it's gross. Yeah, you know what I mean? Or, it seems like they drink a little bit too much, and then, years later it starts to bother you more. You don't really look, and when you start doing that, I think that's when you're more apt to be in a long-term relationship. And some might go, "Oh, you're picky." Your friend might go, "That's a fucking compliment." It's a compliment if you can back up being picky with you also being of high value or a good catch, because it means that you're looking for something, that you're not just trying to. Everyone can hook up.
Right. You're not just trying to grab.
Everyone can hook up, right? If you really want to do it, man or woman, and men would say it's not as easy for men. Sure, I'm with that, but still, you could. Why do people go to nightclubs?
Yeah.
There's a lot of woundeds on the savannah. It's easier. Hey, do you want a drink? Hey, do you want another one? Hey, do you want another one? It's like, why is that a major playing field, right? For hookups. That's opportunity based. That's not someone looking for someone to be with long term, right? Um, this is a big one too. You're gonna like this one. Attraction beats trust most of the time, especially for men, but it also creates distrust. So if you're dating someone or you have an ex that you're extremely attracted to, you often will go, when I ask the 1 to 10, the trust, on a scale of 1 to 10, you'll go, what? Yeah, I don't trust her that much, but I still want her back. It's because of the attraction. I'm saying that actually trust should be just as much as attraction or more, depending on who you are, what you value.
Is that just because, like, you find it just because at least in your own head, that you're thinking that this girl or guy, if she's really attractive, is getting more attention? That's why the trust is a little bit lower. Just automatically.
I should clarify. I would just say that especially men,
Okay.
if you're dating someone that's highly attractive, and you, dare I add that you think she's more attractive than most that you've dated, number one, she's going to get a lot of attention.
So that's just already in your head. Okay.
Number two, if you believe you're batting above your weight, then you're gonna distrust a little bit more. Now, going back to attraction beats trust most of the time. What I'm specifically talking about is when you break up and you're wondering why you still want them back.
Because you value.
All right. Now, one thing I'd add to this that might be interesting to people is the great Joseph Rodriguez has got a great YouTube channel, often says, and this isn't his line, I'm sure other people say it, but he says it quite often, how you do one thing is how you do everything. So if you notice like someone that's extremely flashy, like they have to have a Mercedes or a Ferrari, they wear gold necklaces, but I'll just call it flashy and showy, does that guy end up with someone that's the same way? You're smiling right now, right?
Yeah.
They're not going to end up with someone that looks like they read books and drink coffee in the corner, right? Right?
They want something that kind of accentuates the lifestyle. They're
A lot of times, someone that maybe, is okay with a Volvo 1980s wagon is probably not as big into attraction. So my point is it depends on the character of the individual, but I find over and over again, people will chase and appreciate and yearn for someone that they're highly attracted to that's bad for them and they don't trust, which when you don't trust people in a relationship, it creates a shitstorm in your brain. It's a huge thing. It makes you insecure. It makes you second guess yourself. It makes you feel like they're not really with you. There's all kinds of things. In the beginning of the relationship, if it's mystery, it might create some things. But eventually, you want to be like, I trust this person. We're together. Yeah. But I'm saying that over a lot of people, attraction beats trust, and they're not honest with themselves about that. The thing I was going to add that's something I've said before. If you start to go from opportunity based to looking for, write out what you're looking for, and this is something that people might have heard of before, but write it out, play with it, and you'll be surprised what you come up with, right? If you're really honest, and then look at how that lined up with some of your partners.
Right.
That's interesting,
Right.
and how much you gave in, because you'll be like, oh shit. Yeah, my ideal partner would be this, and you can come up with like 9, 10 things. Job, looks, and there's nothing bad about that. Right. That's what that's yeah. Right, based on your experience, traction, write out the features, different things, and then you look at it and you're like, what am I? And you're like, oh yeah, my past partner had this, and this. And absolutely didn't have this. Absolutely didn't have this. Thing is, maybe you don't find someone with all those things, but you better check mark the most important ones.
Yeah, you value the ones higher.
Right.
wow, maybe the past partners I had didn't have those things.
Because if you look at what you're asking for, it's a lot of what you're asking for in yourself. That's deep. So it's like it's beyond beyond the stuff you're attracted to, right?
Because I mean, yeah.
I don't want some of those body parts
Yeah.
from women.
Yeah.
I just thought about that, right? So, job, maybe fitness, health, some of the things that they're interested in.
Like hobbies.
Right. It's like I'm really interested in psychology, parapsychology, something. Like these are kind of like things that you wouldn't, not everyone's into, but it would be a major plus because I can have deeper conversations with something I'm interested in. All right, so I still have a few more. People's values aren't going to line up like they used to, mainly because values, morals, ideals are constantly changing with daily content and stimuli. People can binge watch Corey Wayne while their ex watches Eat, Pray, Love. I mentioned this in the beginning, so sorry to be redundant, but it was one of my points. I think that, it's just going to be, just thinking about my grandparents. They were both Catholic. They went to church together on Sunday. They lived in the same area of San Francisco. Just a lot of things lined up in their ideals and their morals, and that's how you tend to stay together longer. Now, someone's like, "Oh, you don't have to be that way." I'm just saying that now, with content and everything online, I think it affects you, man.
Yeah, I've been on the internet, and in particular social media in the last few years. Like, I think it's just done like a monkey wrench, and it's just like create a.
Well, I mean, you can even get, you're just online doing your thing, and let's say that you get a message or something behind the scenes from a random person that's like, "Oh, I don't care if you're married," and like that can happen. So, people aren't as willing to give in. This is a big one. People aren't as willing to give in. They want an equal or fair marriage. Let me know what you think about this if you're still on deck, Martin Trink. Not possible. Someone is always giving way while the other wins unless their values, morals, and job line up very closely. Even then, they got to meet halfway at the bridge. So I'd say the complaint now is Western culture men are giving in too much. This is kind of the red pill.
Oh,
yeah. And if they don't, there's going to be hell to pay. Like they're going to have to, get divorced. So they feel like it's. And I wrote at the end. Overall, people just want more.
Always want more.
But think about your grandparents. Like we just want more stuff. We want a better life, and someone will be like, "Well, no, I'm not materialistic." But I mean, if you are on the internet for any period of time, you're getting things thrown at you. You're like, "Wow, that's a hell of a juice blender." And I've always wanted to be a juicer, and then, like that goes in your head. This
right. Well, that's constantly.
So you're constantly like this more, and I think when you go into relationships, you can find.
That kind of leads into that a little bit.
You can find these elements in when you have a problem in your relationship, and they're like, "Wow, they're really taking advantage of me. They're a narcissist for wanting that. They're this, they're that." I'm saying at some point, someone has to give in more than the other person. I just don't. I just don't. Yeah, like maybe you're the albino in the wild in relationships. That you're the unicorn of relationships, and you guys just. Even then, when I wrote this, I thought about it, and I was thinking to myself, who have I witnessed that I'm like, wow, I think they probably have a pretty even split. And the couple that came to mind, I don't know them well. It's a friend of mine's sister, and she's married, obviously, and they have multiple kids. And they just seem, again, this is just from the outside.
Right. This isn't like behind the scenes,
it could be American Beauty. I don't know.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But they've been high school sweethearts. Neither one of them are partiers. They're very square, if you know what I mean, from what I know. But very kind people, one's a nurse, I think he's an entrepreneur of some sort. That they make really good money, and they seem like they line up together and they're not fake. And it would seem to me that they have this kind of more equal partnership. Their families get along. Just a lot of stuff that lines up. But then again, that's from me looking outside the window. That being said, though, I just think that people are less willing to give in. They want their way, and they think their way is correct. And if they want to validate their way, they can go on the internet and find out. You know what? Actually, I'm right because this, and I've seen
these people say that I'm right.
Yeah,
I'm right.
and I think that the way relationships stayed together longer was that someone was going, all right, I'm gonna let it go
Back
on that one, this one, and that one. And now people are like, no, that's not fair. I'm not happy.
This person said it. This person said it.
Yeah. By the way, I'm okay with that. I'm a breakup coach. Right? I think that's it's fine. It's fine. If it's just the reality that you're dealing with now, people aren't gonna stick it out.
Again, you're saying what do you think is the reality now? Not necessarily whether it's right or wrong, but this is just what's going on.
This is just my assessment. Talking to a lot of different people, that it's really hard to get to a point where someone's not going to have to give in a little bit more. And I'm not even going in on what topic that is.
Right. You're not getting specific.
No, I'm saying, it could be intimacy, it could be financials, it could be, I don't know. But I'm saying that to get to a point where both sides feel like they're, equally empowered, and Modern Shrink goes, I have mixed thoughts about that topic. Please share. I'm open. I'm not dug in when I give an opinion.
Yeah.
It's like, go ahead and give me your opinion, and maybe I reshape it. I'm just saying, in my opinion, that a lot of, and I think this is based on witnessing relationships, like I said, grandparents or older people. My parents have been together for, I don't know, since Egypt and the pyramids, 40 plus years. Someone gave in a lot. And I would say for making a long relationship, a lot of times, someone has to give in. Am I saying that I'm recommending that to you? No. You got to create your own boundaries and your own thing that you're doing. Because a lot of people go, oh, I can't believe you accepted that. That's on them.
That's on them. Yeah.
And here's the crazy thing about someone accepting staying with someone that's an addict, or staying with someone that cheats, or staying with someone that's a criminal. Who knows how it's going to play out? That's the part people don't realize. Maybe that person fixes things and whatnot. So it's always a choice when it comes to that. And I added, people want more because of social media and the internet. I think that you're constantly
circling back to this. Yeah.
Right? But here's the kicker. Those that get more want more, and want more, and want more. Power corrupts.
It's just like, you make a bunch of money, you get a bunch of scorecards, more. I want the next one, I want, this.
Am I saying this is 100% absolute? No. But am I saying, and it would be the same in relationships. So if you allow, for example, let's say in the beginning of the relationship, that you, as a female, go, I'm not going to, or a male, should I say, I'm going to, you do all the housework, dishes, laundry. Actually, and I should say male because I know males that have done this. Should say that. And then at some point, 5-6 years down the road, you're like, I don't want to do this anymore. The other person is not going to start doing the chores that you've been doing for 5 years.
Flip the switch and then it's all good.
Yeah, it's and then it's suddenly a problem. I've seen that happen before. Like, they don't appreciate that I do this, this, and this. You kind of train them on that, right? And that's somewhere where you gave in, and they felt like it was your pleasure to do so. And now you're saying, yeah, I don't want to do that anymore.
You feel comfortable.
And by the way, maybe in the beginning the person, was offering to do some things, and you were like, "Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it." Guess what? They're going to take more. More. I do believe this, and this might be had an anthropology professor tell me this. It's human nature to take advantage when you can. Now think about that for a minute. Some people, oh no, I'm a good person. I'm no saint. But it's human, and some people think taking advantage would be like hardcore manipulation or getting money out of someone. But you know what I mean.
Well, I'm sure back in the day that key was survival, right?
Kids do it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Like teaching young kids when I was like 5, 6, 7 years old when I was a teacher for that charity I worked at. Oh my goodness, they'll identify the weak quicker than anyone else.
And they're not shy.
Right? It's it's bullying. It's and it's the same thing in relationships. You got to really create what you want up front. Right? Sometimes power corrupts. Okay, I can dig that.
Yeah.
I would say a lot of times, and then you'd have to say what's power, and but in relationships, big time.
Yeah.
You've probably witnessed this from a side when someone's gotten too much power in your life. God, they're taking it too far. Like, have you ever watched a friend or something? You're like, damn, you're a jerk, man. Yeah. It took the other partner accepting that behavior.
And sometimes they don't even know it.
Damn, that one hits. The training them to expect it thing. It's true, dude. It's true, because like someone will be like, oh, why? How does your your girlfriend does this or that? Mine never does that. Number one, have they done it from the get-go? Was it their play? You know what I mean? There's all kinds of variables to that. Your giving in might mean different to another person. Okay, so you don't like the language of your giving in. I see what you mean. What I mean by that is that someone's got to lose an argument sometimes, or lose, stuff like going to an in-laws for Christmas. That could be a big issue for people.
Yeah.
Right? That could be a big issue for people. It's like for years, my father just didn't go. Just didn't want to go to those things. Like, he just rather stay home. My mom never made a big deal. Some other people make a big deal about that.
She gave into that.
Never made a big deal about it. Yeah. I'm giving a pretty low example of that, but I'm just giving the example that there's some things that people would have to have an argument over it and somehow feel like they win, and that goes back to the thing with marriage that a lot of guys are worried about now in the Western world, is that women can drop the hammer. All right, I'll get divorced and I'll get this much. But I've talked to other people before that are the guys that don't make as much money, and they can do the same thing. Training or grooming, what's the difference? I'm not sure. Training or grooming, Rob says. It normally takes. I'm sorry, I lost Big Red Apple. Welcome. A lot of people go into a relationship to find love when they don't feel love from inside. You can't expect somebody to make you happy when you are not happy yourself. Blood comes from within. It normally takes, I find out, about 3 months to form a relationship. It's very hard to get past the first few weeks when you've only seen each other once a week. Texting is an absolute nightmare. So this is a personal experience. Again, texting is one of those things you got to adapt to. It definitely is one of those things that misunderstandings happen all the time.
Yeah.
Big time.
Yeah.
Language and tone and body language count for a lot.
Right. And it can happen here, like, specifically to where we are, in Thailand. A lot of times.
Language barrier.
Yeah.
Language barrier.
That kind of comes into play too. So, seeing the person and actually explaining it that way, so it helps.
I adapted.
Yeah. Me too.
I adapted to it. Sounds like she compromised, as in choosing her battles. Giving in means to completely give up. See, I don't think of giving in as to completely give up. Okay, but I mean, if that's the way you see it, I don't have a problem with it.
They're thinking of like giving in,
You feel, because let me say this: giving in to me in a relationship on an issue wouldn't be giving up on the relationship. It would be saying,
"Hey, I want to."
It would be saying that, okay,
I'm okay with this. Like,
all right, I don't really like that. You keep the toilet seat up all the time when you take a piss. But
I'm gonna let it go. And
but those things can add up and be a problem later on.
If there's 20 of those things that you're constantly, it can add up.
But it would be interesting if you did a study, modern shrink, which you're capable of in your field probably, and you saw the couples that stayed together for a long time. I bet someone gives in way more than the other person, and it's not always a woman or the man. I've witnessed plenty of men.
Probably the successful ones too. To be honest, though, there's probably a lot of giving on both sides. I would imagine, like maybe there's probably a skewed side. There's probably one person that does it more, but I'm sure the other side is giving in sometimes. It's not just can't just be one sided for 50 years. Is what I'm guessing.
She said, "Blee, I don't do studies." It's an
studies.
academics word. It's just so common now. It was funny. Rich Cooper always comes up on my feeds now. He's got good what do you call that? Like thumbnails and stuff.
Oh, like they're catchy.
Yeah. And one of the I'm gonna go into this another time, but I'll tell you about the topic later on. I don't want to ruin it because everyone will want to talk about it immediately because it's a catchy topic. Basically, if size matters, right?
Yeah.
And so he went into measurements.
Like specific.
He went into measure. He goes, I got a study I pulled up on the internet. Here's where we'll discuss this in another one, but it's funny because he pulls up a study, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like I got a study. He goes, if you Google, you can find all kinds of studies. It's like minus the validity, right? Because it's just like, oh, if you Google this, you'll find 5 or 6 studies. There's no, but the part that got me was like, okay, it had this study. And he goes, oh yeah, and right here it talks about how they conducted the study. We don't need to read that. And like I was just like, okay,
you're just gonna throw that out,
right? It was like to me, I was like, this is when you're dealing with the size of a guy, don't you think there's some lying going on with some people, or like some skewed results probably? And it was just funny. If I wanted to study, I would have became a psychologist. Okay. For me, a woman has to come into your frame, not the other way round, as it will be a nightmare if not. Okay. But is there a point where you might have to be in her frame?
That's what people are.
Yeah, good point, B. I agree. I mean, if you think about it, even the strongest of men probably have to give in on something. Depending on maybe. I mean, maybe Jocko Willink, the great Navy SEAL, would be like, "Get over it. It's my way."
Yes, I could
right?
see that.
We're not doing that.
Mm-hmm.
I get up at 4 a.m. every day. You're gonna listen to me. I run this ship. What's up, Mary? What have I learned? I just came a little late, hon. Anyone else want to add to that list? What have you learned? Those are the things I learned. I'm probably going to do another video on this, but I think it's a study conducted by some nerd with a small penis who fabricated the results. But these studies that are used all the time, right? Online from Google. I don't know. I mean,
where are they coming from? When were they done? Like, who's doing the studies?
What did I learn from you, Mary? I'm not going to tell anyone that. It's interesting, though. It's interesting talking to a variety of people. Really interesting. I think.
Sure. I mean, as long as you've done it.
Yeah. But these are what I talked about today. The commonalities, and I would say at the core of it all is really learning. If you could learn one thing that people overlook constantly, is the fact that the way you see things is the way you see things, and it's completely unique. And that's why we like being a fan of teams. It's like, oh, you're a Giants fan, B? Oh, sweet, we're on the same team. We can root for the same team. This is great, and I have millions of other people out there I can identify with, and we can wear shirts, and we can win together. people like this, right? We can look at and then we can look at the game, but then we might watch the game we won, and we're like, oh no, the turning point was when this guy hit a home run. Nah, Mac, the turning point was this. The team, you still have different perspectives, but
the general picture.
But me and you could see, a friend of mine just got in an accident today. He's really upset. Called me up about it. Told me about it. It's like, what's the first question? Are you okay? Did anyone get hurt? No, but goes into this and this happened. All I care about. Are you okay? Deal with the other stuff later, man. Right? Like, are you did you get in a serious? No, I'm okay. To me, that's what comes first. Someone else might go, did they have insurance? That's someone that see people filter for different things. It's really interesting when you start listening to people what they filter for first when you talk to them. They'll tell you their values. Yeah. And people out there that would say, hey, man, did you have insurance? Someone, right? You'd like to say that you'd say, oh, I hope you're okay. But there are some people that would ask different questions to someone that just got in an accident. But you're right, though. Right? Yeah. And that would be based on them being in an accident with no insurance or something like that, right? So
their life experience.
Yeah. Or someone might go, oh, I knew you were going to get in an accident. You drive so crazy. So that's the one that comes up in breakups, relationships, everything that you come across when you deal with a lot of different people. That's what you come across. You're like, holy shit. And you stop trying to put your values and your morals and your thoughts on the people.
Someone else.
You just go, wow. Let me just listen to this person's point of view and where they're coming from and how they came to this conclusion. And sometimes you're like, all right, I can see where you're coming from.
I can think that they have a different point of view.
I can see that. My first question is to the friend: Are the Giants tickets okay? What's that mean? I don't understand. I don't know, Chuckster. Elaborate. I'm lost. Yeah. All right. Questions are open. Donations are welcome. If no donations, that's just fine.
Please throw a like.
Got 8 likes. That's fine. 10 people on deck. It was an interesting conversation today.
Yeah, it was interesting hearing, kind of your thoughts on the last few years we've been doing this.
Which ones stand out to you?
To be completely honest, is the theme of a lot of these, the social media, and how that affects relationships. And I think I took away that, hey man, that's just a huge part of people's lives, and it affects everybody. So
it's affecting you before the breakup too, right?
Yeah.
Because that's where you're gonna. Yeah, it's affecting so many things, but it probably is the number one for people that are really, really hurt and really having trouble moving forward and are really stuck.
That barrier, it's hard to break over that.
They won't let it go.
Yeah. It's such a powerful connector. It's hard to let that go.
And it wasn't even a reality 15 years ago.
Yeah. And I mean.
So when you broke up 15 years ago, which isn't long ago, you wouldn't have that line or that connection.
Maybe you would see them out, on town or something, or at a restaurant before. That's how you were. Maybe
well, people don't think it, but it's the equivalent of cyber stalking. It's like you waiting out in front of their. I remember I had a friend that. This was a bad story, man. Him and his girlfriend. His girlfriend was a drunk. I'll just say it. I won't even say alcoholic. I'll just go with the mean term. She was just a drunk, and she was. It was one of those ones that's like, really, this is your girlfriend, dude? Like
every time she's drinking, it's just.
It wasn't just drunk. It just wasn't a good match.
Right.
She was a little obnoxious, but you know what I think it was? She was well off, and I think he was kind of like at the time he wasn't poor, but he liked the fact that
she could.
Yeah, I think she bought dinner quite a bit at like fancy restaurants and stuff like that. But they were close, but it was just a weird. Yeah, to me it was
just
you knew they weren't going to be together long. But anyhow, they went to a wedding, and she got hammered, and she just got caught flirting with another guy openly, and yeah, like which okay.
Well, I mean, you're with, you're
And I think he got upset. My friend wasn't one of those to get loud or like that. And I don't know what transpired next, but she basically left with the guy. I think she left, like they got in a fight.
And she just
I think she left with the guy,
Wow.
but the end of the story was he went to her apartment and waited out in front because he said he knew, and I think it was her apartment. I'm pretty sure. And the guy came out, like they went home. Yeah, they went home together. Yeah, and he was like, so the next morning he like calls her and he's like, hey, what happened? What did you do? Like, oh, she just bold-faced lied. Bold-faced lied. And he's like, and I'm like, did you tell her you know? And he's like, no, not yet. And I'm like, I don't know why you hold that information. Now that's a real stalk job, right? He's waiting outside of the in front of the apartment.
This has been his long-time girlfriend.
Yeah.
Okay.
So he was getting direct evidence. It's still pretty bad. That means your trust is a zero if you have to go that far. You kind of already know before you know.
Yeah, I mean, if she left.
It's pretty bad.
Yeah.
So she came out of the house, then told him this whole story, like, oh, I just came home, I got a cab after you left. Made up a whole BS story. And and he saw the guy come out of the apartment and everything. And then he called her on it the next day, and she broke down crying. He was like, I'm sorry, we didn't do anything in the house. Right? Whatever.
You've gone through this whole story.
Yeah. Oh, no. And then he told me about it, and I'm just like, man. But my point is, that was probably like right when Facebook started. This was like 12 years ago, 11 years ago. And people basically do the same thing where they wait on social media for you to do something and then go look. It's way more passive. Yeah, it's way more passive. It's less incriminating stuff, but it's very painful. I think the worst too is when you're hurting and they're feeling really good.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm so happy right now.
Right. And a lot of times
I had an awesome day at the beach.
Right. And a lot of times, when you see posts on social media, it's only good stuff, or it only seems to be good stuff. You're so happy at the beach, and in reality, maybe with raining or who knows, but they make it seem a lot better than it could be, and then that just feeds into your insecurities. Oh man, they're having so much fun.
Yeah, I'm hurting inside. You were just talking about Giants fans being able to instantly have a connection. Just another one of my out of place jokes. No problem, Chuckster. Sometimes the joke doesn't land, especially on text, right? Sometimes I'm like, what? What do you mean? Yeah. We prefer to call it a stakeout, not stalking. Okay.
Stakeout.
Great movie.
Seems a little better.
Yeah.
Oh, that is me.
Another stakeout. Emilio Estevez.
Yeah, that's right.
Emilio Estevez.
Who's the other? Emilio Estevez. Who's the other?
His brother, Charlie Sheen.
No.
Richard Dreyfuss. I think. It's good knowledge. I saw that on VHS too.
Way back.
That's an '80s movie. I always liked Young Guns too.
Young Guns is good.
I'll make you famous.
There's a lot of actors in that one. Right?
That's a great. Young Guns is a great movie.
I call that like the Rat Pack.
Chavez. I forgot what Lou Diamond Phillips was in it. Richie. Great movie with Richie Valens. Yeah. When you got some pals, man. I gotta watch Young Guns again. There are different types of stalkers. I'm talking to B. He also lives here. He's from California too. Petty Betty. Petty Betty's from Cali originally. Yep. Petty Betty now lives. I don't know now. But you were in Atlanta. Resentful stalkers, rejected stalkers. Wow. I don't know if I've ever had one of those. Thankfully. Only had one time where I dated a woman. I don't know, a couple times, 3 or 4 times. We hooked up. She warned me that once we hooked up, I'll love you. I'll never forget that. It's like, but I'll love you, and it's like, oh yeah, okay. And then
this
it's
is like
oh,
third time I've seen you.
Yeah, it's like, oh my goodness. And then she showed up, like I was at a restaurant bar, and like, what are you doing? You didn't answer my text. And I'm like, whoa, shit. I've never dealt with this.
Similar, almost the same.
And like hit me with her back. Like hit me with, not hard.
Yeah, but like
on the back. Yeah,
and
I was just like
you were taken aback by
I was just like I was thinking to myself, I'm like, Okay, ashes to
Nice.
ashes, dust to dust. We're done.
Or you didn't continue after the bags?
No, that was one of those ones where I went. Whatever you just said, we will not be speaking again. Goodbye. I didn't do anything wrong here. I remember that like okay. My friend calls it boil the baby rabbit. Have you ever seen Fatal Attraction?
No, I don't think I have. But
That's
I know it's
before your
referenced-
time,
I know
yeah.
it's referenced a lot.
Yeah, and I think she boiled the guy's family's pet rabbit. Yeah, Fatal Attraction's crazy. What's up, brand new Skinner? It's been a while. We're just fading out here. We only got a few more minutes. Does anyone have any closing questions? Now this is where we get off topic at the end and just go into Big Red Apple. If you got a question, otherwise, thanks for chiming in today, Modern Shrink. It's always a pleasure, and don't be afraid to give your opinion, even if it maybe doesn't line up with mine. I don't mind. I'm open.
That's better. It's,
Yeah, yeah.
Have that conversation. And you don't
Totally
always
don't
agree.
mind. Yeah,
Should be like that.
yeah. As long when people just attack people, or they say,
No,
"Hey, I
yeah.
don't agree because of this or
If it's
that."
in good faith and it's just a normal conversation and you disagree, that's life.
Yeah. Jen, if you're still on, it was a pleasure. Fang Drag, which is always just an interesting name. Fang Drag. Fang is actually listening to it. Glenn Close. Is that who it was? Okay, yeah. What a psycho movie. Mac, my ex told me that her mom and aunt told her that they hope things work out with us. And are you working on a relationship with your ex or what? See, Brand New Skinner is one of those. He comes on live streams a lot. I got a lot of respect for him, but I don't really know his relationship stuff. He talks to me about basketball. I know he's from Chi-Town. I know Modern Drink. She says we can always agree to disagree. I agree.
Yeah, no judgment.
I agree. And you know what that's something I didn't mention. I didn't mention earlier is just how people interpret words, right? Like maybe you have this Modern Drink. I might say a word that you're like, oh, that's not what it means. It's like that's what it means to me. I don't use Webster's dictionary. Sorry. Like love. I always tell people like love's a different. Someone can give a completely different definition of being in love than you do. It's unique to them, right? So it's like when you said, "Oh, give in" actually means give up to me. Okay, that's not what I meant by it.
Right.
Because I would think give up would mean give up the whole relationship, right? So, but at the same time, yeah, okay, if that's your interpretation. Words can trigger different things. Right?
Especially like you were talking over text, like how you deliver it, and how it sounds.
Yeah.
So
yeah. I'm good on my situation, but it was interesting. Well, congratulations, Skinner. You got a new Bulls ball club. He's a Bulls fan.
Okay.
Stop Bulls. Bulls. Do you know that one from Saturday Night Live?
Bears.
Bass. Bass.
Yeah, who was that?
It's Norm from Cheers.
Norm, that's right.
Bulls.
Cheers. That was a good one. I used to stay up late when I was a kid.
Yeah, with Cliff Clavin. I actually when I lived in San Diego, the area that I was selling shoes at Nordstrom's, Cliff Clavin came in. It's like, hey, Cliffy. Like you wouldn't even know who he is as an actor, right? It's Cliff. Yeah. It's Cliff Clavin. It's the mailman from Cheers. He had no other role.
That was it, and he played it for years.
Yeah, it's perfect. Chuckster, thanks for the $9.99. I appreciate it.
It's from
Emilio Estevez, Billy the Kid. They did I heard an interview on him recently, and he said that he was one of those people that just walked away from Hollywood, just raised a family, and just didn't want to. Kind of did the opposite of his brother Charlie Sheen.
With like the total.
But it was interesting because he was good, man. He was a good actor.
Yeah.
He was popular, and he kind of just disappeared.
He was Mighty Ducks.
Mighty Ducks, that's a good one. Mighty Ducks.
That was
Young Guns. Young Guns is probably my favorite, but I think the only thing that they did together, him and Charlie Sheen, did Mitchell Brothers. Yeah, Mitchell Brothers is a big one about the what they started in the city in San Francisco. We're definitely still attracted and we still kiss in our affection, but I'm not focusing on defining things. Oh, there you go.
There you go.
Keep it in neutral.
Mm-hmm.
Stick and move.
Lonzo. Bulls of Lonzo.
It's an interesting mix. You definitely have a lot more talent on the Bulls. Who else do they get? The Bulls got DeMar DeRozan's a pretty good player. They didn't really give up much either, so I'm still not sold on Zach LaVine.
He's a high flyer, man.
He's not a winner though.
Maybe
You just need
different pieces.
for you to win games. You need
Like that.
you need a couple. Yeah, you need guys with an edge or that are clutch. And
You think there's like that clutch gene? Can't really like.
I mean, Westbrook's a perfect example. He's probably one of the most athletic.
But doesn't have.
What's the word I want to say? Most athletic and flashy, exciting player to watch. Plays hard, but I don't know why is he always getting traded? Players like that don't usually get traded. There's something there, and I've said this before. Like, there's little things that add up. Like, he plays so hard, he's always on the ground.
Yeah, out of position. I said this one too.
Yeah, like you go 100 miles an hour and you score this
drive into the bucket
layup, and then you're on the ground and it's three on.
And a lot of times he'll be like looking at the ref like, "Where's the call?"
And stuff like that just adds up. Okay.
His athleticism.
No, he's great, and he plays hard. He plays hard. He's great, but I mean, it doesn't translate into wins. You know what I mean? Like, you got to give LeBron James credit because how great he is. He wins, and now he's now he's been on some super teams, but those Cleveland teams, dude, that was impressive. What he's done, even though he lost a lot in the finals,
Did he get it there?
Oh, no, hail to the king, man. Does anyone else take pride in a partner who knows how to kiss? I've dated in the past and had terrible experiences with a bad kisser or two. It is a big turnoff on someone who doesn't know how to kiss. Well, here's the interesting thing. Do they think the same thing about you? Kissing is also a language too, right?
Yeah.
So someone can have a style.
And they don't kind of match up.
I've talked about this before, Eduardo, that this might be one of those things you might want to groom them into what you like. You might have to communicate. Like, this is one of those things you maybe, if you really like the person, and that's the only thing.
It can be an important
Yeah.
thing for sure.
You might have to take a kissing class.
Or at least talk about it.
Talk about it, yeah. Don't let it go. But I would say, yeah, that's true. But to them, it might be the way that they like to kiss. And yes, I have had terrible ones. And then, what's to say that they don't think I was the one that was terrible? I've said that too.
But it could be like they think that, and then it just doesn't match up, and then.
And whoever they were with before didn't have a problem with it. So yeah, there's a lot to that. But definitely, if you have someone that you're seeing, and that's the only thing that bothers you, you could probably work on that together. And it depends, because a first kiss, yeah, it could be that you guys have been drinking. It could be that
it just didn't match up.
It's an acquired skill. Some have it, others don't. Westbrook isn't a good team player, apparently. Well, I mean, like I said, he's traded, dude.
Yeah.
He's been traded like 4 times in 5 years. I suppose there are plenty of YouTube videos on how to kiss. Start with your hand and go from there. No. I'm talking to wide open mouth, tongue getting slammed down my mouth. Wow, don't get people excited here, Eduardo.
It's a family show.
Seems like odd to learn how to kiss from a YouTube vid, though. It does, doesn't it?
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah, like I said, that's one of those things you think that your way is probably the best way, and the reality is maybe that was exciting for
Maybe they like that.
It's like a signature.
Yeah.
It's like that's how I do it. It's like, oh wow, I got spit all over my chin. Everybody's teams got better, but mine. Are you a Celtics fan? You got Dennis Schroeder. I'm just gonna assume from the quote. All right, folks. A Bitcoin with a kiss. Wow. I don't even know what that means. but it sounds expensive.
The edge of the thick one right
All right, folks, it's been good. It's been a pleasure. B, thanks for being on deck. I think this was a good show today. I appreciate you all. Eduardo Martinez. It's a bad experience, borderline scary. As a first kiss with that individual, I preferred to peck.
now.
I thought tongue action on the first kiss was the way to go.
Well,
Well,
it just didn't match up. Just didn't.
well, those kind of skills can be used in other areas. There was talk about trading for Beal, but nothing yet.
Oh,
All right, folks, take it easy.
there you go.